In version 2025.1 of Home Assistant, they added a bunch of new backup features. Well, there was some feedback. There was a lot of feedback, and Home Assistant listened. They made some changes based on your feedback, made some improvements, and we're going to talk about that in this 2025.2 release of Home Assistant. Let's get started. Now, although this video is a little bit about the 2025.2 release of Home Assistant, I'm going to focus primarily on the backups. I did a video on the backups on 2025.1's release, and I want to cover some things that I talked about that you had feedback on in this video. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about encryption. Encryption was one of the big things that came up as a feedback item. People didn't want to have things automatically encrypted. So Home Assistant listened and they removed, or they gave you the option to remove encryption on all but the Home Assistant cloud backup. So if we go into our settings here and we look at our different locations where we can back things up, you have the ability to turn encryption on or off. So in this case, encryption is off for the local system and it's on for my network storage. Both of these are network storage, and this one's actually disabled. For cloud backups, you cannot turn it off. So if we look at the settings here for this one, if I wanted to enable encryption here, all I would do is turn it on, and now my encryption or my backups will be encrypted. Same thing here. If I wanted to turn off encryption, simple as flipping a switch, and it confirms that those backups will be unencrypted. So we'll just turn that encryption off. And there we go. And now you can see at a glance that you have encryption turned on and turned off. And like I said, if you have Home Assistant Cloud and you're backing up to the cloud, you cannot disable encryption on that. It will always be encrypted. However, when you bring that restore back to your device, if you download it within the Home Assistant UI, it will automatically decrypt it on the way back into your device. So you don't even have to worry about encryption and decryption. It will do it for you automatically. Now, if you try to store it encrypted on a file system and try to do that without bringing it back in through the UI, it won't be unencrypted. The only way it unencrypts automatically is if you download it through the Home Assistant UI. And that's as simple as going into your backups and downloading it. So if I go to my automatic backups and I come over here and I download this backup, this will be automatically decrypted as it pulls it in. So that covers the encryption piece. You provided the feedback, they listened, and they made those changes. Next up is the backup times. In the past, you were given a specific time that you were able to back up, or that the backup ran, and that backup time was specifically at 4:45 a.m. Now you could still choose daily or whatnot, but you couldn't choose the time. Now what they've done is given you the ability to either choose the system optimal, which is between 4:45 and 5:45 a.m. That's because they do a database optimization prior to that, and this is when that's completed, and it'll give you the smallest backup footprint. So if you don't like that, let's say you have a NAS that goes to sleep at night, which I've seen comments about, or your backup device is not running 24/7, you can choose your own time. So you would choose custom, and then you can choose whatever time you want it to run. So let's say 1:45 a.m. There you go. Now you have the ability to choose your own backup time. You can also choose what days of the week you want to schedule. You can have the backups run daily, or you can choose which days you want it to run. Let's say you only want it to run Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we'll uncheck the rest of these. And now your backups only run Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So yeah, there you go. You have the ability to change the time and the days that the backups run. In addition to that, if this is not something that's enough for you, you can even go into your automations and you can create an automation that does the backups for you. So we could say time. So let's go with, I don't know, pick a specific time. Let's do 12 a.m. And then you would run an action, which would be backup. This is probably the one you want here. backup, create an automatic backup. That creates the backup with the backup settings that you ran. Now you could do conditions here. And the reason why you'd want to do this, if you had a condition where you needed to make sure the NAS was running or some device was on, or you had some other reason that you would want to have some additional conditions or do some additional stuff with your automation before it backs up, you could set up that as well. One of the other big bits of feedback, in addition to all the other stuff I've talked about, is the fact that it's hard to tell what backup set has actually been backed up when you're looking at it on a file system. This has always been something I've had an issue with. Yes, you can look at the time and date of the file creation on the storage device, such as your NAS or network device or wherever, but it's hard to see that from a glance. Well, in this version, they've also made a change to that. So if we look at our backups here, you can see that we have automatic backups with a name, a date, and the version of Home Assistant that was backed up. So this was an automatic backup. It was created on our version 2.25. Let me try that again. This is an automatic backup on the Home Assistant version 2025.2.beta 10, because that's what I'm filming this with right now. And it was created at 7:38 a.m. on February the 5th, 2025. And you have a couple things here. There's now a meta file that's created with the backup. But now you have what it looks like now versus what it looked like before. This is what you used to see before, this cryptic file name stuff. So now you actually get a name with your backup. So it's easy to tell which backup that you are actually running. So that's super nice. There have also been some new locations added. And we'll go to the web page for Home Assist to talk about this one. There are 3 new locations, essentially. We have Google Drive as available backup location, Microsoft OneDrive as a backup location, and then the Synology DSM integration. I've been running Synology for a long time, and I've actually gone in there and mapped a SMB network share to back up my stuff to, until yesterday when I realized there was a Synology DSM integration. So I've added the DSM integration. If you have Synology and you use the DSM integration, you can then back up to that location. So I want to not save anything here. And when you go to, let's go back to backups. You can see your locations down here. This system, which is where it backs up one of the copies. And then this is what I used to have, was the network storage, but now I'm using the Synology DSM location. So these are the 3 locations that are currently available to me on my production system. I have the Home Assistant Cloud. So my backups in here are a little bit different. Now I'm not running the beta version of Home Assistant 2025.2 here, so you don't see some of the things I'm talking about quite yet. They'll be here later today when I update it. But here are my 3 locations: Home Assistant Cloud, Synology Network Storage, and this system. Now, whenever I upgrade this production system, I'll be able to use the DSM integration to be able to store directly to that without using this network storage. You can still use network storage if you want to, but that's another option, is to use that DSM integration. So anyway, you have your locations that are available. And remember, once again, that over here, if you're running Home Assistant Cloud, you will not be able to turn off encryption for this particular backup. That's super important because you don't want to store that in anybody's cloud, whether you trust them or not, without some sort of encryption, because there's stuff in there that could potentially be harmful if it were to get out. So that's why they don't allow you to disable encryption on the Home Assistant Cloud backup. All right, so one final thing I want to talk about on the backups is the backup toggle. On old versions, or in 2025.1 of Home Assistant, if you saw an update like this and you went to update it, you would see that there's no longer the ability to back up directly from this update page, this repair center page. That was taken away because they thought it was redundant to have automatic backups and then also have add-on backups separate. So they did away with the ability to do on the fly backups from here. So in the new version of Home Assistant, and I'll show you on their page because I've already updated everything on my beta version of Home Assistant, is they have this, find it here, the backup updating in Home Assistant. The toggle is now back when you do an update in both Home Assistant itself and also in the add-ons. So when you do an update, you'll see this toggle is automatically turned off. So default, it's off now. If you turn it on, it's going to create a complete full backup of the backup settings, or using the backup settings in your automatic backup. So whatever you have set up in your automatic backup, it's going to do a full sync. This is because if Home Assistant would fail, you wouldn't have any interface to download or restore or backup. So they've chosen this path in order for you to have a full backup if you turn this on. Now it also shows you the last time there was an actual backup. So in this case, if I backed up an hour ago, I probably would just leave this off and run an update. If this was 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, or 3 days ago, I probably would click this button on, make sure I had a full backup before I did an update. Same thing for add-ons with a slight difference. There's also a toggle there as well, and it's also disabled by default. But when you enable that, only the backup or only the add-on is backed up along with its data, not the full sync that you do when you turn the Home Assistant backup toggle on. This allows you to keep that previous version like you used to before, and it also they've also done an update that allows you to not fill up your hard drive because you have a whole bunch of backups from this add-on. It only keeps the previous or the current backup and deletes all the previous ones. So a lot of work there to turn that back on and allow you to have some ability to, on the fly, create a backup before you do an update of something. So that covers all of the stuff related to backups that I want to talk about. And it's a majority of what the update is. Now, there's a lot of voice updates in this version of Home Assistant as well. And there's one where it talks about being able to call your analog phone to tell you a message. I don't have something set up to demonstrate that, but that's an interesting use case. If we look at the blog again for that, it says that you can have Home Assistant call your phone and play a message when someone picks up the phone. That's using assist satellite announce. And then you have assist satellite start conversation. So if you're using an LLM, you can start a conversation between Home Assistant and the user. Home Assistant says the first message, and then you can have this conversation. I haven't tried it yet. That'll be interesting to play around with, but we'll see how that works out. New broadcast intent, so you can broadcast to all your devices. So for example, I'm going to use the voice assist here. You could do something like broadcast time for dinner, and it would send it out to all of your devices, all your voice devices, that is. And then along the same lines, they've added the ability to set temperatures based on the area you're in, or if you only have one thermostat or one controller like I do for the entire house. But if you have different heating controls, such as radiant heating, different thermostats in different rooms, and you have the assist stuff set up properly. So if you were to talk to your assist device and that assist device is in the room you want to change the temperature for, you could say, set the temperature or whatever, and it would change it for the device or for the room you're in. The assist device and the thermostat that you're talking about need to be in the same area, and that's set up in areas in Home Assistant. That's why areas are important. If you want something to happen in an area like lighting or thermostats or whatever else, then you need to make sure you have the areas set for those devices so that they all can interact for the area that it's in. As Home Assistant does more and more with that, it's going to become more important that the areas are set properly. In my case, if I just said set the temperature to, what's it at now? 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to go ahead and it's going to set my temperature to 75. And you'll notice on my thermostat page here, find that. You'll see that it has now set the temperature to 75 for my system. And if I change it back, where am I at here? Set temperature to 77 degrees. And I click that and it says it set it. And now you also have the ability to set or to ask calendars. So if you have your calendar entities exposed, you could say something like, tell me my calendar events for this week. Or how about today? And then I say, I think it's calendar 2. Don't even know. Calendar 2. All right, so I have a test event set for 7 p.m. today on calendar 2. So you can, this is stuff I'm showing you in the text window, the assist text window, because it's easier to show on the video. But you can do that. All this stuff is done through your voice assist as well. And then if you want to have a conversation with something, let me just show you here what they talk about. There's a shared history between the default conversation agent and its LLM fallback. So there was a feature set up in 24.12 allows you to use the local conversation agent for all of your queries. And if it was too complex for that, it would fall back to the LLM. So if you got an LLM configured at the same time as the main assist or the local assist, then you have this ability to do something now that allows it to have a follow-on conversation. So in the past, it would do something like saying, like, turn on the lights. It turned it on. They say, turn them back off. It wouldn't know what you were talking about. But now it shares the history between the LLM and the local assist. So you can do something like turn on the bedroom lights, turn on the lights to turn them back off. And I can show that here, I believe. So say, turn on the study or game room lamp. And now I could say, turn it off. And it knows what I'm talking about because it shares the history between the LLM and the local control. So lots more to come with voice. They're still working on maturing the voice part of Home Assistant for local voice control. So let's talk about the final thing, a few new integrations. Homey is now available to be integrated into Home Assistant, Igloo, Letpot, Overseer. This model context protocol server, that's part of what was part of this release as well, but it enables using Home Assistant to provide context for MCP LLM client applications. So you can expose your Google Task to-do list as a tool for Claude Desktop. Don't even know what half of that means, but it's a huge, looks like a huge thing here. You've got to do some pretty good work to get it going. It talks about the architecture, the client configuration, you've got to install an MCP server and all kinds of other stuff on here. So I'm not really sure how this fits into anything yet. It's one of those things to play around with later on and see how that can be useful to what I'm doing, but I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but it's there. QBus Google Drive allows you to store your Home Assistant backups in your Google Drive, and then OneDrive allows you to store the backups in your OneDrive. So you can add these two integrations to be able to do backups there as well. And then what else do we have? Do we have backward compatibility? We do. EcoVAS, Home Connect, MQTT, some of these other ones. So make sure you always read the backward and compatible changes before you do an update. Otherwise, you could be in some trouble with things breaking that you weren't aware of. And with that, that's the 2025.2 release. Again, most of it on backup stuff because I focused on that on the previous video. I wanted to make sure that I covered the things that were changed based on your feedback to the Home Assistant community. And I applaud the Home Assistant team for listening and for making the changes based on the feedback. It's one of the few places I know of that when you say something, they react to it and get things taken care of. So I really appreciate that. And with that, that's this video for this time around, the 2025.2 update. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments over on Discord, etc., etc. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.